It's 3 o'clock and I welcome you to this Gaming in Spain webinar, in which we will take a closer look at the current state of the Spanish regulated iGaming market. In today's webinar, we will provide you with a brief update on the latest regulatory and market developments. But of course, there's only so much we can do in one short webinar. If you would like more information, please consider coming as well to our upcoming Gaming in Spain conference. That's on May 6th in Madrid. Some of the confirmed speakers include Jorge Hinojosa, who is director of the trade association Jdigital, David Henwood, director at H2 Gambling Capital, and many, many more. In addition to our regular program, the 2024 Gaming in Spain conference also features several highly technical breakout sessions on relevant compliance topics, such as e-money, RG training, and effective compliance management. In short, we've gathered a lot of expertise, and I think much relevant information will be shared. Of course, the Gaming in Spain conference also offers excellent networking opportunities. Before we kick off today's webinar, I would like to thank our strategic partners and sponsors, which you can see listed on the screen in front of you. Thank you. Thank you for your generous support. We would not have been able to do this without you. Thank you. As always, our webinars are interactive. If you would like to participate in a poll or submit a question to our speakers, you can do so through the Slido app. To use Slido, please scan the QR code on your screen or visit slido.com. Then enter the event code GIS, hashcode GIS. Finally, select the Q&A tab on the top of your screen. The questions will be addressed and, if possible, answered during the audience Q&A at the end of this webinar. With us today, we have 3 expert speakers. Jorge Hinojosa, who is Director General of Jdigital. Alla Serebrianskaia, who is partner at Asensi Abogados. And Jochen Biewer, who is Managing Director at the Chevron Group. Welcome, and thank you very much for being here. We're very, very glad to have you.
Thank you.
Our first speaker of today is Jorge Hinojosa, as I said, Director General of Jdigital. Director General of the Jdigital. Jorge, thank you very much for being here. How are you today?
Thank you to you, Willem. I'm very fine to share with you and with the rest of the participants this occasion to talk about the online gambling market in Spain.
Thank you, Jorge. Jorge, as first question to you, how would you describe the general state of Spain's regulated online gambling market at the moment?
Well, we cannot understand this moment if we do not have a look to the 3 years ago, when the generalized thing in Spain that many changes from that. We have to know since 2020, Spain's online gambling market has been exposed to an intensive process of new regulation, really high restricted regulation by this government in the last legislature. So that demand to the operator to be more responsible and committed. On the one hand, advising, including sponsorship, has been strictly limited. For example, only from 1 to 6 to 5 in the morning, and all sponsorship is forbidden. So we have really bored about one of the most immediate effects of the new regulation has been the proliferation of intensive players and the almost disappearance of the occasional gambler. That's one important element. And on the other hand, the regulator has been widely devoted to establishing a safe environment for gambling. We have to remember that in the commercial communication royal decree establishes a question about this matter, and after that, the government in the royal decree of the safe environment regulation imposes a new obligation to operators. So that's two very important issues in the last period, the last legislature, definitely in the last moment of our regulation and our market. Now the government is working, as you know, in a new regulation. We can speak about the new regulation that is coming later, but that's really good important. Finally, that's true that the last year, 2023, was a good year. This year, by the first time, up to 1 billion, making a record-breaking, and the sector had recovered something truly impressive considering the dramatic situation before. But that's not that's not enough. We have to think in the future of the gambling market more than the growing only the year. We have to see another question. In conclusion, the intensity and deep of the new regulation, that's very important. We can say one moment before and one different moment after this regulation. So I think that if the first question that we have to do in general, regulator and operator, is time to evaluate the consequences and effects of the new regulation and analyze which issues deserve more attention. Think one question is very important. If we see the last players profile, and I'm sorry because I am talking too much time in the first question, but I think it's important to take account different questions to understand everything. The last players profile establishes in Spain. The average spending is 736 euro a year, 60 euro a month, only 15 euro per week. But mainly, one second data very important. People under 25, between 18 and 25, called a special population, spend 333 euro a year, less than 1 euro a day. So I think that the gambling market is safe, is more safer, is more responsible, and is not a problem in Spain.
Thank you, Jorge. Thank you very much. That was very clarifying. In the meantime, to everybody who just joined the webinar a minute ago, please don't forget that you can submit your questions that can be answered at the end of the webinar through Slido. Point your camera to the QR code on the right side of your screen or go to slido.com, enter the event code #GIS, and then you're in. You can either ask a question or upvote somebody else's question. Moving on to the next question, Jorge. What is Jdigital's opinion on the cross-operator deposit limits that the DGOJ has now announced?
Well, first of all, I don't like it. I don't like it because the first question, we think that it's not necessary to regulate this question. Mainly because I said before that the player's profile don't give us any reason to do. But in any case, the DGOJ has prepared a draft text in this question, cross-operator deposit limit. It was presented to public consultation in September 2023 and to the rest of the advisory bodies in Spain, mainly the Spanish Competition Authority. And we think this is a very important question. We presented to the Spanish Competition Authority our allegation because this is one question that is going to be very important in terms of the competitive market. It will be really hard to develop the activity, and we hope that the Spanish Competition Authority make a really good document and probably change the regulator decision. By another question, we know that the government said the other day, say to us, the regulator, that we are not going to follow the German model, but it would be a huge mistake by the regulator. But anyway, the current draft text establishes a special system, an out system. So we think that in the future, maybe the regulator is thinking about the obligatory system, and that's no good idea in our opinion. So we have to work, of course, with the regulator to try to improve this question. Second one, the German model is not a good decision for Spain market. And finally, we hope that the Spanish Competition Authority do the job and establish that it's quite complicated for the competition between operators.
Thank you, Jorge. That was very interesting. Moving on to the last question to you, Jorge, the shorter one this time. This is about something that Spanish license operators have been clamoring for many, many years now. So, Jorge, can we expect, in your opinion, new permitted game types in the future? What do you think?
Well, I think that the first question that we have to improve the market, the gambling market, and one of the questions that we have to work is about to take or to permit a new games in our market. We are working with the DGJ to open about the new live games beyond roulette gambling. So we are working with the regulator, and that's true. And we are asking our operator about technical information that they consider relevant, to try to approve in this, not this year, maybe in this legislature, to approve new games. Well, the DGJ is apparently open to discuss this possibility. That's a good news, but they don't have any decision respect this question. So we have to try to convince to the DGJ that it's a good opportunity to improve the Spanish online market. It's a good opportunity to fight against illegal illegal operator in Spain. Don't forget that the level of the black market in Spain is really important, and is a good decision to open the market to generate more safer and more opportunity for player. Finally, we are working to make better market to give better services to the players, to the consumer, and we are working. They are open to study. Well, we'll see if they are open to approve. You know that we live a quite difficult balance between operators and regulator. They said we are receptive to know your demand, but at the same time nothing changed in our market. But it will be a great problem. We have two big enemies. By one hand, black market, and the other hand, we are making intensive players, and we are losing occasional players. So it will be a big problem maybe in the future.
Thank you, Jorge. That was very, very helpful, and I appreciate all the answers you provided. So if you can please stick around for the Q&A sessions at the end, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you,
So
William.
now
If
that
you
we
have any, if my English wasn't really good, I will try to explain by the other way, even in Spanish.
it was
Thank you,
perfect.
William.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now that we have a sense on what's happening in Spain's regulated iGaming market, let's take a closer look at the regulatory situation. To help us with this, we've brought in Spain's most knowledgeable regulatory experts, Alla Serebrianskaia, and welcome, Alla. Thank you for being here. Again.
Thank you very much, William, for inviting me one more year to take part of this very interesting webinar.
Of course. Alla, the first question to you is, what is the status of the latest royal decree on responsible gaming? What measures have come into force, and which ones are still pending?
So now, 12 months after the approval of the decree, we can say that the numerous obligation requirements are already applicable in place. The decree is fully into force, because the most complicated requirements from the technical perspective, or let's say those more controversial, have entered into force just 2 weeks ago, the 15th of March. These are mainly the session for other games against the session for the game session for slots that we had so far. This is the rule for the in-play betting limits, the new rule. This is the prohibition for the use of credit cards for the deposits made by customers that are categorized as risky behavior and intensive behavior. Or, for example, a little bit polemic one about the prohibition of offering promotional activities not related to the gambling platform to those customers categorized as young. Now, about what is missing, what is pending. So, by September this year, operators and providers will need to ensure that the design of their games is in compliance with the regulation, which basically means that the presentation of the results of the game need to be clear, need to be shown in a clear way, and also will need to be restricted from certain encouraging messages. And also about what is still pending, I would say the most important part, which is the technical reporting of all this new setup through the ICS to the DGOJ. Basically, the new data model has not been approved yet, which means that we are now currently like in this kind of transitory period where operators are already operating and have implemented this new setup, especially as we said for the other game session and the different restrictions and requirements for the different categorizations of players. But this cannot be reported to the DGOJ through the ICS. The DGOJ circulated a draft regulation on the data model. This document is now has been sent to the European Commission. And while this regulation is following its legislative procedure, the DGOJ less than 2 weeks ago circulated some guidelines about this upcoming new data model with some essential questions and answers. And also we have learned important information, which is basically that the new data model is expected to be approved in June this year and will enter into force 9 months after. Operators will not be allowed to implement this new data model before the term of 6 months since the approval, which means that there is a mandatory minimum period. And last but not least, it has been confirmed also that these changes will not qualify as a substantial changes. So this means that operators will not need to certify nor homologated the technical system before the DGOJ.
Thank you very much. Once again, for everybody who just joined the webinar, or if you have a question to Alla, please join us for the Q&A session at the end. You can ask your question if you point your camera to the QR code on the right side of the screen. That points you to slido.com. Use the event code #GIS and pose your question there or upvote somebody else's question. Alla, second question to you here today. When do you think we can expect the new cross-operator deposit limits that the DGOJ has announced and that Jorge also referred to? And what do you think these limits will look like?
So, as to when can we expect the new cross-operator deposit limits to be approved, there is no information and there has been no further information. As previously Jorge has explained, the draft regulation was circulated in September. It was subject to public consultation, ending mid of October. And the draft foresaw the entry into force of the regulation in 12 months after its approval. That has been already foreseen in the draft, but there has been no more information than that as of today. What we know is that the DGOJ is working on the technical deployment of the system. They are working on the technical development because this system will be basically monitored and controlled by the DGOJ. So the system will look like as follows. The DGOJ proposes this deposit limit system as complementary and independent to the current existing individual deposit limits upheld by each operator. Operators will need to have the technical means to connect their system to the DGOJ new systems, because the functioning will be as follows. A player will request to the operator to make a deposit. The operator, after verifying the individual deposit limits of the player and its system, will inform the DGOJ system about this player's request, basically for two purposes. One, to get the authorization to proceed with the deposit, and two, for the DGOJ to update the amount of accumulated deposits of the player in the system. So the DGOJ, after review and calculating the available margin, will provide that answer to the operator, who, in the case of authorization, will process the deposit through the payment method, and the DGOJ will update the accumulated deposit amount in the on their system. The draft setups by default deposit limits, which are of 600 euros daily, 1,500 weekly. And well, this is basically the functioning which, as Jorge has explained, it has different concerns in the industry. One main concern, for example, is that this system could hinder the competition in the Spanish market due to the tendency of players to concentrate their deposit in larger operators, or also concerns from the technical perspective, what's going to happen in the case of unavailability of the system, interruption of the system, and well, in the black market, as we said, to find other opportunities, options more attractive and less restrictive.
Good. Alla, thank you again. That was very, very helpful. Last question to you for today here. Our next question, we will be trying to look a bit further ahead. In addition to the Royal Decree on Responsible Gambling, what other regulatory changes can we expect in the coming months or years?
So again, as Jorge has explained, in this restrictive legal framework that we have, we all are now expecting regulations addressed to make the market more attractive, competitive, both for players, for operators, in terms of new products, in terms of innovation, which is absolutely necessary at this moment. Despite this, there are currently a few regulatory ongoing projects, like, for example, the modification of the data retention period from the current 6 years to 4 years, the location of the ICS, of the safe, of the vault, which is now in Spain, but is going to be open to other countries in the European Union, or the development of the algorithm by the DGOJ to identify customers under risky behavior, which is something that the DGOJ is working also on it. There is also a clear trend that we can see now, which is the fight and combat against fraud in gambling. Basically, in terms of match fixing, the aim is to establish a close collaboration between Sigma and the operators to fight against match fixing, and to identity fraud in collaboration between the DGOJ, the police, the tax agency, and the data protection agency. It has been recently circulated or approved a protocol of action against identity theft, basically due to a very big number of individuals who use third-party data to register with gambling operators, to obtain profits and avoid the income taxation. There are apparently a very big number of cases that are being registered in this sense. The gambling market cannot become a focus of attention of this problem, so there is currently an imperative need to establish protocols and mechanisms to fight against this, to mitigate this problem, and this is definitely one of the main concerns and projects that is being right now held by the authorities.
Of details there, and I think you gave us all something to think about. Thank you, and please stick around for the Q&A sessions at the end. Moving for a moment to our final speaker of today, Jochen Biewer, who is Managing Director at the compliance services provider Chevron Group. Welcome, Jochen, and thank you for being here. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Very good, and you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you. Jochen, as a compliance expert on this panel, my question to you is, could you briefly list the main compliance challenges in the Spanish market at this moment?
I think Alla and Jorge did already mention everything which is coming into place very soon. And so we heard that there might be new KYC requirements because of identity theft and probably AML issues because on tax evasion. There was, Alla mentioned also the responsible gambling requirements being reviewed in the games, and that there might be reporting and also monitoring requirements coming up very soon. On the other hand, Jorge mentioned that the average deposit per player is less than €1 per day or 360 euro per year. So this means it's quite difficult to be profitable on the Spanish market with such a low deposit. So the raise of the compliance requirements means also a raise of the compliance costs, and to be able to manage the compliance costs and the compliance requirements in an effective way. I think this is one of the main challenges on the Spanish market, because the compliance costs are directly related to the attractiveness of the product. If the costs are high, the margin of the operator needs to be higher. So, for example, at casino, the return to player, the RTP, the margin of the operator needs to be higher, and the RTP needs to be lower. We have seen this also on the German market, that the market becomes unattractive because of the high costs. Same with sports betting. At sports betting, the odds needs to reflect the costs which are involved to offer the game. So I think that in the next year and the next years in Spain, it will be very important to have an effective compliance management, and this is something which is in the favor of the DGOJ to reduce the black market and to keep the market attractive. And on the other hand, it is important for the operators to be able to offer an attractive product and to be profitable on the Spanish market.
Well, compliance and sustainable market is what you're saying here. Thank you, Jochen. Second question to you is, building on the first question, of course, which regulatory issues can be addressed through training, for smart training solutions, for example, Jochen?
At the moment, there are at least 4 requirements for training. It's responsible gambling, AML, then data security, ISO 27001. If operators are licensed in other jurisdictions as well, they have the requirement to be ISO 27001 licensed or certified, and GDPR, data protection. So this is a lot of training, and for a lot of people in an organization, this means also costs, not just for the trainer and the trainees, but also for people maybe going to face-to-face trainings or to spend time in webinars or e-learning. So a smart solution is to offer e-learnings where possible, so that the staff can do the trainings when they have time to do it. Then more extensive trainings can be webinars or blended trainings, a combination of e-learning and webinars or face-to-face trainings, and then the expert trainings and also RG trainings normally are happening in face-to-face trainings, because it's more difficult to explain, and the trainer very often, especially with the RG trainings, is interacting with the participants in a way that they have an experience of being addicted, not just to gambling, but to something maybe in their own life. So it's important from a time perspective or cost perspective to have the right strategy to establish the trainings in a company.
Thank you, Jochen. That was very, very helpful. Last question, no, not the last question. Third question to you here. In addition to smart training, you also mentioned e-money. Why exactly should licensed operators invest in compliance e-money solutions?
E-money means here that it's possible to use cash to top up and pay out from player accounts. And this is, and with e-money, which is and means an e-money licensed operator is integrated in the payment system of the gambling operator, would allow in a point of sale situation, so in retail businesses, to top up and pay out from the player accounts. It is quite attractive for most of the players to play with cash, because then their banks or their normal payment methods, they don't experience that they are playing with gambling websites, and which might cause also in raising their risk profile at the banks. And also it's a matter of control. If you would only spend the money you have in cash if you play with cash. And Spain is still a strong cash country, so this e-money opens the possibility to play online actually with cash and having the same feeling as playing with cash in, for example, sports betting corners or sports betting shops. So it is kind of a marketing strategy. Marketing might not be the right word in the Spanish regulation for this, but it makes the deposit and the withdrawal probably more attractive to players, and it opens also for companies which are offering retail games in sports betting or gaming halls, sports betting shops or gaming halls, the possibility to top up and pay out legally in these premises. This kind of payment system is in place since a long time in Italy, and we have an office in Milan. And when I'm walking through Milan, I see a lot of point of sales where you can top up CSAL or Snitec accounts, but very little amount of betting shops, because of the cost running a betting shop hardly profitable in these large cities anymore.
Thank you, Jochen. That's a very interesting topic here. Before we move to the final question to Jochen here, I'd like to remind listeners there's a Q&A session at the end. Please point your QR code to the right side of the screen, add a question or upvote somebody else's question, and we will deal with those at the end of this webinar. Jochen, you have already touched upon several compliance-related issues. Where can our listeners or viewers learn more about compliance in the Spanish market?
This year we have organized together with Gaming in Spain some breakout sessions in parallel to the conference. And these breakout sessions will touch on all these topics. We have invited not just Spanish but European experts to explain best practice in other European countries. And we will have the market leaders in several of these compliance topics, like the market leaders in e-money. We have already confirmed that Octopay, Pelado, it's from Mercury Games and Aircash are going to participate in the panel. So we will learn how the e-money solution is used in other markets. And I think there are also quite interesting news from Octopay, how the wallets are used in gambling halls.
Thank you, Jochen, and I really look forward to that in a few weeks in Madrid. We are running sort of out of time. We are within the time limits that we have here, but of course we have time for some questions and hopefully answers. We got some good questions coming in, and I'm looking at some of the first of them here. I think we will do 3 audience questions here. The first one is the following: is the current Sanchez government equally hostile to gambling as the previous one? So there's some of you have an opinion on if the current government run by Pedro Sanchez is equally hostile to the gambling industry as the previous one. Sorry, can you unmute Jorge Sebas?
Yes, sorry about that. Well, definitely it has been a really hard, and this government doesn't make any movement that we change the opinion. The problem is that they start from one consideration that the game gambling is a problem, so we are going to fight against gambling, and they don't see that if you work against the legal market, you are working for the illegal market. So it's really curious, like the government, the regulator, and the new government in this period thinks that the gambling is a problem, and we have all data declare and demonstrate that the gambling in Spain is a really good market. The operator do the question and do everything good. We have more safer gambling market, and we have a more responsible operator. So I don't know. I do not. I don't know because the regulator is still thinking about the restrictive regulation in the future. But that's the reality. So we cannot change and we cannot fight against this question. Well, we have to keep working with the regulator and offering our help and our know-how and our everything that is in our hand to make much better market. Before Alla was talking about the cross operator deposit limit. One question very important. After the new royal decree, the DGOJ is going to be in the center of the system. In the center of the system will be the responsible, who is going to be the responsible against in front of the player, the operator or DGOJ, who is going to be solving technical problem, operator or DGOJ. So I think DGOJ, if we do not need in this moment this regulation, is more the problem that maybe can happen in the future than the solution for one problem that we have.
Jorge,
That's not my
thank you. That was very clear. Moving to the second question here, and I think we're looking at Alla for this one. Alla, is there any news on the future licensing windows? So does anybody know anything about possible future licensing windows?
There are news, and the news is that there is no any plan of the DGOJ or of the ministry to open up the window.
Okay, anything to add to that, Jorge?
Well, that declared Mikel Arana in London in the last ice. So it's not reason to open the market in this moment because we have more than 20 license without activity. So they think that it's much better to create a small market, sending and buying active license, legal license, before to open the market. So they declared that one in the last eyes, and I think this we have to think that we are not going to be this question open in this period of this legislature.
Great. I think we are doing one more question before wrapping up this webinar. 1 second. Yes. Last question, I think that is directed to Jochen here. What is the turnaround time for mandated RG training? So is there an estimated turnaround time, Jochen, for the mandated RG trainings?
At the moment, and it depends a bit on the industry, but at the moment, it made sense to have, depending on the position of the staff, if the staff is like the first line of defense towards the player, to have a regular training every year. If the player, if the staff is not directly involved with transactions with the player, or like is working, let's say, in accounting of an operator, then it's probably not necessary to have a yearly refresher. Here, I think a 2-year refresher would be sufficient.
Thank you. And thank you, Jochen. It's 15:42 here on my side. I think we're running out of time. I think we wanted to stay within the 45 minutes. So let's wrap this up. Thank you, Jorge, Alla, Jochen, for sharing your thoughts and answering our viewers' questions. I'm certain that your insights were very, very well appreciated. And thank you for taking the time to prepare for this. Thank you.
Thank to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Of course, as mentioned before, there will be more to discuss at the upcoming Gaming in Spain conference. It takes place in a few weeks on the 6th of May in Madrid. And if you would like to hear directly from the key stakeholders in the Spanish iGaming market, you should not miss this event. We have the latest insights from regulatory experts, up-to-date market information, highly practical compliance solutions, as Jochen mentioned, and much, much more. The conference registration is open if you go to our website, www.gaminginspain.com, and I really hope we can all meet in person in Madrid. With this, we've come to the end of this Gaming in Spain webinar. We hope you find it useful. If you would like to keep in touch, please register to our newsletter that you can access in www.gamingin.eu. Subscribe to either. As always, keep in touch. See you in the newsletter or see you in Madrid, and see you soon. Thank you.